I'm CK. Tonight we've got another module from Djupviks Electronik. I did his Bristol Bloodhound a week or so ago. The video's on the channel, I'll link it below, and I really enjoyed it. Tonight we have his Bunker Archeology, a bunker simulator, a reverb echo effects type unit that's got some extras in it that I think will sound pretty good. So we'll put it together, put it in the rack, and hear how it goes. Hope you enjoy the video. Here's the kit. I got it from thonk.co.uk, where I buy most of my modules, even though I'm in the US. I find Thonk to be very responsive, and they certainly ship and get things to me here in California as quickly as any US company I've dealt with. Panel, bag of stuff. Let's look at the panel first. Let me put my visor on. I always forget to do that when I sit down, and you guys got to put up with that. Okay, little tag. Tear everything open. Here's the front panel, and again, like the Bristol Bloodhound, it's silver on red, which is not easy to see. So, bunker in, static in, and something else here. And I believe this is in German, but I'm not sure. I'll look it up later. Modulation, division, CV for that side, and again some stuff that's reverb out and regular output. So, oh, I see what this is. And again, I'm sorry, the panel is really, the silver on red is really hard to see. I believe this is a actual bunker blueprint or layout, fitting in with the style of the piece. I'll get the two circuit boards out. We've got looks like July 2021 was when it was made. An op amp goes here, an op amp goes here, CD 4040, I think that's the echo unit, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to double check that. All the resistors and transistors and diodes have their values listed, which is always great for those of us who sometimes don't look at build guides. Looks like we've got a daughter unit back here. I don't know whether that's going to be a reverb tank or whether it's going to be that or a daughter board for like a Raspberry Pi or whatever. Couple of caps. All the holes are through hole plated, which is good. That's the one board. Here's the knobs and other board. And this is June 2021, where the other board was July of 2021. Bunker in, pot. No, I'm sorry, jack, pot. That looks like a trimmer, which is going to be, he did that again. Looks like he's got a trimmer under the board, under the control panel. Another pot there. Switch. Jack, pot, jack. So that's an interesting arrangement. And again, that's a variable resistor to trim it, and as was the same on the Bloodhound, you can't get at the trimmer with the front panel on. So you set it and hope you got it set right. Now let's see what kind of good stuff is in the bag. I'm serious. I should make a channel devoted to failing to unbox or unpackage things. I am so bad at it. Now again, I'm going to complain about this again. It's a whole bunch of plastic bags. Obviously very convenient for organization, for shipment, and even for assembly, because everything is in nice organized bags, but it's a lot of plastic waste. I looked on the board and I didn't see this. Here's a row of surface mount capacitors. I did not see pads for those. Let me see where those are. They were on the back of the Bristol Bloodhound. Well, I don't see them yet. Okay. Now I'm seeing them. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just 4. Well, there are surface mount components on here. Where did that go? Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 surface mount caps. They're on the back of the board. On this board, 4 of them. Let me see if there's any on the front of the board that I can see. I don't see where the other 2 go yet. I am not seeing where the other 2 go. So that may require a trip to the build guide. Ah, there's another one. That's 5. So we're only missing 1. We'll get to it when we get to putting it together. We'll do the surface mount caps first. That's typically what I do. Bunch of resistors. I mean a bunch of resistors. I'm separating them out now because we'll, as usual, do those first. Ceramic caps. Some electrolytics. In here we've got an LED. We've also got a photoresistor in here. I didn't see, again, I might have, since some of it's not in a language I understand, I don't know where that is. Let me look on the front panel and see. Okay, it looks like it's down here. Yeah, that's where it is. So down here at the LDR spot, which is interesting because, I mean, there's no hole there. Because here's where the jack is. And unless this is somewhat translucent, but it's not transparent. So that'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting aspect, seeing how it works. Here's all the mechanical stuff, which I'll probably take all the panel nuts off the jacks off camera. And here we've got transistors, the op amp, the CD4040. And over here, we've got the heat of the matter, which is an Accutronics reverb brick. I don't know if this is a short, medium, or long. I've got an Accutronics long from them. Ah, these are not. Okay, I see. So this is the older, or the single unit style. This is a long reverb tank, which I don't really like, so I use a medium. But as you can see, the difference here, this has 6 pins, this has 10 pins, so I anticipate that this brick has short, medium, and long already in one package. At least I hope so, because that would be nice. And that's what's going to be going in this spot here. So that's good. I like the Accutronics reverb tanks, digital reverb tanks. I mean, they're not the same as a spring reverb, but can't have everything. So that's all the bits in the bag. Obviously, there's a lot of soldering to do with all the resistors, all the caps, and the control pieces. So we'll get the soldering iron heated up and dive into it. So a couple of follow-ups. So first, Bunker Archeology is based on a project that an author that I'm not familiar with that I'm going to look at, Virilio, who in the 60s he documented the abandoned structures of the Atlantic Wall that was, of course, built in the early 40s to defend occupied France. So this is a part of that art piece, for lack of a better term, but I think it's going to be very interesting. So that's one thing. Second, the CD4040 is a ripple divider. And then what I was talking about, I just glanced at the build guide. I haven't read it in depth yet because he's got lots of good text. Here's the variable resistor, light-sensitive variable resistor. Here's the diode. So the diode under the panel is what is talking to the LDR and to, as it says, when the modulation switch is switched on, it causes the reverb tank to gradually shut down or attacking itself, shorting out the tank using the LDR and an LED. Creates interference and noise, which is sent to the static circuit. Can be used for drones or percussive sounds. So that's an interesting, fun little technique there. So that will be a good thing to look at. So put all this stuff to the side, and we will start out with our traditional resistor time. We're going to put all the resistors on. I'll do the first one live so we can get a sense for how the board is taking solder and whether I need to go clean it or something like that. I don't think I'm going to need to, but I'll just grab one. I'll grab this 2.2K, which goes in R18, and we'll learn if the boards are separated by number or not. In other words, if the resistor numbers are grouped sequentially from the front to the back, and they are not on this one. So that makes it a little more challenging to find stuff, but found it. Again, I really dislike all the plastic bags. Okay, the lead holes are tight, so we'll see with the big, even though the big diode leads look like they are the appropriate size. So they may be snug, but they won't be too tight. I'm going to put these two on. I'm actually doing the wrong thing here. I should be doing the surface mount caps first. I said that's what I was going to do, and I'm not doing it. So I'm going to do this one resistor since I started on it, and then back up and do the caps. So time for hand soldering some surface mount capacitors, which is probably the easiest component you can surface mount. So this is good practice if you haven't done much hand surface mounting. Obviously, if you've got a reflow oven or you have a setup to heat a board with solder paste on it, you're laughing at me doing hand soldering, but I don't have an oven to solder things to do surface mount with, primarily because it takes a lot of workbench or shop space, and I don't have that much flat surface area free. Okay, got all the caps out. Now here's the way I like to do surface mount caps. I'm not alone in this, but this is, I'm just saying, it's the way I like to do it because I'm doing it right now. So I put a dab of solder on one of the pads. Now, of course, because I put that resistor on the circuit board is rocking, I did myself no favor by doing that resistor first. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this board. I think that's all we have on this board. Now I get my tweezers, my surface mount cap tweezers, LED tweezers, resistor tweezers, very sharp point, and I have a video on my channel about tweezers, where you can get them, what tweezers I'd recommend. I'm putting that pack of resistors under there just so I can stabilize this circuit board a little bit, because I put the resistor on when I shouldn't have oughta. Clean my tip. Now, caps, surface mount caps, put them on any old way. There's no right side or up or down, and heat up that little pad you created, and the capacitor goes in, and it's locked down. So that's the pad I already pre-tinned. Now we just finish up by putting some solder on the other side. Now we gotta, again, figure out where the other, because we've got C21 right here. Maybe he's got a drawing. I should look at the build guide to see if he's got a drawing showing me where that 6th surface mount cap is going to go. I'm going to give it one more eyeball look first. Really not seeing it. And again, you may actually be seeing it and screaming at your screen saying it's right over there, but I'm not seeing it. I didn't actually look at the back, the front of this one closely to see if it had, get my handy dandy index card out. Oh, there it is, C18, right above this transistor, voltage regulator. Huh, interesting. Well, now we'll get all the rest of the resistors on. And as usual, since we've gone over soldering one resistor in, we don't need to talk about putting the rest of them in. So we will transition to fast playback and no commentary and enjoy resistor time. that's resistor time for this kit. So next, I'm going to put the sockets on the board. So to put them on, we'll solder one leg, let the solder cool, take a look, are we all flat? Yep. So we can move on to the next one. And that's that. Now one thing to be careful of here is right here, there are the two surface mount caps right in the middle of the socket pins, so just be careful you don't put your iron against them or do anything like that which might disrupt their positioning. Now we're going to do all the little caps. Now we'll put the electrolytic caps on, 10 microfarad and 47 microfarad. So these all go on the back of the control board. 10, 10, and cutoff means 47. Well marked with positive symbol and shading for the negative side, so you can ensure things are installed correctly. I would recommend that you get these as flat on the board as you can, because you don't want them wiggling around, because this is the actual back of the unit. In other words, this is what's hanging out the back of your rack. So when you have your hand back here plugging in a cable, or oops, dropping a capacitor on the floor, when you have your hand back here messing about, you don't want these sticking out, because you don't want to weaken the leads or bend them over. Not ideal placement, but it's not bad. I mean, you don't spend a lot of time behind on the back side of the rack anyway. Just be careful, know that you got some caps back here. Now we'll do the two power diodes, the circuit protection diodes. I didn't want to do them before I did the caps on the back, because one of them's right here and I didn't want to solder. I didn't want my soldering iron that close to the side of the diode for getting things, semiconductors, hot. I am the most paranoid about getting diodes hot, because over the decades that's the one that I've messed up the most by overheating. But it's also long ago. Diodes are made much better now. And while I'm in this area, I'm going to put the power connector on, and let me find it. It is not shrouded, so it doesn't matter which whole way you put it on. Obviously it will matter how you put the cable in to the connector, but the connector itself, since it's not shrouded, making sure it's flat, yep. Since it's not shrouded, it can go either way. Now we'll go into the bag. Oh, electrostatic sensitive stuff. We're not going to put the chips on right now, but we are going to put the transistors on. Now, we're going to put the pin header that the reverb tank, digital reverb tank, will sit in. It goes on the back here. I'm going to go ahead and put the pin headers on now also. I wonder if he has a particular way he wants to do this. I don't really care. Let me go get a different pair of pliers to cut these female pin headers. I hope I have enough, because as we know, you always lose one pin when you cut female pin headers. So hopefully got enough. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So he left us exactly one pin. So he got no margin for error. Of course, I've got plenty of spare. I've got a couple of feet of spare pin headers, because I know this is the thing I make the most mistakes with. So you are the sacrificial pin right there. It all looks dandy. Now we'll do the pin headers on this board. And by the way, this board set matches this way, which is somewhat different than some other board styles, but because of putting the reverb tank on the back, I assume he had to make the decision to put all the other electronic components on this side, and of course the knobs come out that side, so it logically has to go that way. Now let's see if, because when you cut male pin headers, you don't have to sacrifice a pin. So let's see how many pins he gave us, just for fun. 1, 2. 24. So yeah, he's saying, okay, I gave you the extra one on the female, I'm not giving you the extra one on the male, because you should know better. And I appreciate that. I'm not going to use those for this one. Male pin headers, I can use my smaller cutters. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting this photoresistor in and this flathead LED in, and we're going to have them kind of face each other. But we want it to be facing straight out that way. We don't want it tilted down, because we want to get the direct light from the LED. Oops, exactly not what I did right there. Yeah, that'll clear the panel. And we do not want them to touch, but but this is going to have to be a little lower than that. There's not a lot of space to work in here, but you want to get the full output from the LED going directly into the the photoresistor. So I'm lowering it a little bit again. And then taking this, and that should be good. I think that'll be good. Oh yeah, that'll be plenty. I didn't actually have to go that low. We put a jack on for a real good test, because I think the jacks are the component that's driving the height on this board. Oh yeah, we've got plenty of clearance. So, speaking of which, we may as well put all the rest of the mechanical components on the board, and we'll kind of speed through that. Now, make sure the switches, if they can be centered, are centered, even if they're not supposed to be centered, but just for putting the panel on. Much easier. And I just knocked a jack loose with my pinky finger. This hole's not big enough. The division hole is not big enough for the switch. Okay. And that's the sticky switch. Gosh darn it. Let me take it all up and pull it back out. I'm going to go get a file, a round file, and we'll have to file this out. I'll just take a round or half round file and file that out back in a couple. Took about 45 seconds of filing and got the hole big enough to use. So let's try that again. Get this thing back in here. Hopefully we didn't. There we go. Oh, see? I was saying, oh, it's just that one. No, it's not. It looks like the modulation switch also needs to be filed out. Yeah, it does. Okay, camera off. Back in a minute. Only took about 35 seconds that time because I knew what to expect from the material. And now, for the last time, he says confidently, there we go. Let's get all the little jacks lined up. And there we go. Now what I'm going to do is what I typically do. Oh, look at that. This switch is, and I even have both adjustment nuts off. It's just right on the top of it. But it's tall enough and it's fully engaged in the holes that this jack It's a little lower than this side. In fact, the distances between, so the distance between the front panel and the back on this side is 12 millimeters. And on this side is 10 millimeters. So that's a full 2 millimeter difference, a slope here. It doesn't matter sonically, of course. It's just kind of, see, the problem is when that happens, because this switch is holding things so high, with the jack fully pressed against the board, you have no threads. You can't get a panel nut on the threads, which is not a huge deal, but you'll see what, I'm gonna do something about that. You'll see that in a little bit. But first I'm gonna put one panel nut on this screw, this switch, panel nut screw, to hold this side down because these pins are so tightly in the board. I may be able to well, kids, I'm gonna take this panel off again and look at something here, because I really don't like this. I don't think it's gonna be. Let me take this back out and look at this base. So there's a little ridge running right down the center here, which is what's keeping it up too high for me to be comfortable with it. And I'm thinking about cutting that off, because I just hate not being able to put screw threads in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I have to go do it over in the mechanical side of the workshop, and I'm not gonna move the cameras around. So just imagine a Dremel tool with a burr head, and I'm taking that off. Okay, so I've got that ridge taken out of the switch here. So I think I have enough threads on this one, but actually I'm going to take the panel off one more time because I read ahead a little bit. Now this trimmer sets the maximum feedback when it's fully clockwise, and the designer of the kit says he likes it all the way up there because you can adjust by adjusting the feedback pot RV4, then you can take it back out. But I'm not going to take it all the way up. I'm going to take it, say, 3/4 of the way up. I can always go back in here and mess with it afterwards. But I think we're ready to put the panel on for permanent. But I think this will all be okay. Now this one still doesn't have quite as many threads as I would love, but it'll be okay. So set everything down, and we'll go ahead. Oh, let me put the LED through the front panel. How did it get all cattywampus? It got all cattywampus on me. There it goes. There it goes. Now a lot of, yeah, see, I've still got, to have that many threads out, almost all the pins are almost all out of the circuit board, so I'm actually gonna push them back up flat against the circuit board because that's where they're going to take a lot of force. And now, whole bunch of soldering. It's all soldered up, so I'm going to go ahead and put the panel nuts on. Now it's time to put the ICs on the board. Now I'll put the reverb tank on the back. Kind of hangs out there. I don't know, maybe a piece of foam would be good. I don't know. Now we'll mate the front and the back. It's hitting that cap just a little bit, but that's not a big deal. Now we'll do my spazziest part, which is putting the knobs on. Oh, these don't have, there's no locking screw on it, huh? Okay. This is the feedback knob. This is the acoustic knob. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what I mean. The trimmer in there sets the maximum for your noisiness, but this, you can adjust feedback here very well too. Now he includes these little caps that go on these pots. I don't generally care about those. I mean, the pots already have an index mark on them, so I'm fine with that. So that's the way it looks. You will notice that there are a different number of threads sticking out. This switch is still just a little high, but it'll work just fine, I'm sure. So here's the front, side, back, other side, top, and bottom. Now we'll put it in the rack and see how it sounds. We're going to go ahead, we're coming off the even VCO from Bufaco. You can hear a little background bleed, but don't worry about that. Ignore that. We'll take the attenuation all the way down, and you don't hear anything. Bring the attenuator up. A little bit of grainy reverb. Change the acoustic. Take the modulation out. So it's a nice little reverb with a little grit to it. Now I'm going to bring in the, I forget what he calls this. We'll bring this halfway up. And you can see the LED that we put in back there starting to light up, talking to the photoresistor. Take that down a little bit more. So it's a good reverb with this grit added. Let me see, I haven't done this. Let me put the VCO in here. I mean the LFO into CV in for that. Bring it up a little bit more. Nope. I may not be giving it a good signal. Oh, there it goes. You can see the light come on and off as the LFO triggers. I'll turn the LFO up a little bit more. So that's kind of cool. Let me turn the attenuator all the way up so we get a really hot signal in here. So the hotter the signal, the less reverb you get out of it. But listen to that, that sounds kind of very cool. I'll do it on the sequencer in a little bit. I want to try the, let's go to the static out right now, which right now I believe it's in series, so the reverb and the static in are in series. We'll take that feedback up. And if we just want that with static and no reverb, we just go in the static in. You can hear changing the divisions hits it a little harder, a little faster. You can hear the flutter. Static is not, it's a little bit, I'm not getting as much as I would have thought. Again, as I have to be all the way up to hear some, and that may be my misunderstanding of what's going on. So if you're going in bunker in, just reverb there, and on this side it's now I'm getting a lot more activity, so it feels like it sounds better with bunker in instead of static in to get some of that grit. I'm going to put the LFO back in the reverb side again because that sounded good. Okay, I'm going to hook it up to the sequencer and drive it that way. Where am I? Blue. See how it sounds in a sequence. So that's where she sounds. Now, it's a real strong reverb. It's a real good reverb. I like that quite a bit. That's probably one of my top 2 reverbs right now. The static side, I'm not understanding something, so I'm not quite getting what it's giving me. But that's probably just a matter of playing around with it, keeping it in the rack for a while and trying it out. But again, if you just go to the reverb side, it sounds really good. So another good unit from, and I'm going to read the name again, Djupviks. I'm probably saying that poorly, and I apologize for that, but that's as good as I can do. It's a good unit, as you saw, except for a couple of fit problems with the panel. It was a pretty straightforward build, a couple of surface mount capacitors, so if you're not comfortable with hand soldering surface mount or doing surface mount at all, you might not want to buy this, but if you are, and again these are easy surface mount caps, get this. This is another real good unit. Thanks for watching the video.